Welcome everybody to Cuttin Up with Clint and Dusty. Brazier's been a rough weekend for some of y'all Tennessee fans, hasn't it?
Yeah, I saw your mom at Kroger today. She told me to behave, so I'm going to try to be real mild on my thoughts about it.
What are you doing over there?
I'm trying to start a Etsy account, get rid of all these damn Nico I'm a-leaving shirts. Like $4 million. Good God.
And a Bugatti?
All right, welcome in to Cutting Up with Clint and Dusty. This is Sunday, April the 13th. This is our 5th episode in our podcast. Got a lot to talk about, guys, but before we get going, we want to welcome in. We got a special guest because our topic today, Dusty, is a Wrestlemania show. We're a week away from Wrestlemania, and we're going to bring in our producer extraordinaire, Mr. AJ Good. AJ, welcome to the podcast.
Just happy to be a part of the party. This time I'm the redheaded stepchild on the show.
Well, AJ's a lot more professional. For folks that don't know, AJ's a lot more professional than Dusty and I, so we didn't want to tarnish his name.
Yes.
But we just had to bring him on this because we watch every wrestling show together, so it just felt wrong to not ask him to be on.
You're right. We had to have AJ on this show because he's going to bring a twist that me and you probably didn't see.
No, he's going to throw matches out of the.
Yes.
It's
By
going
the
to
way,
be.
we have to point out, I've never seen you wear these glasses before. I've never seen this before.
Well, guys,
He's trying to look smarter, but he didn't realize it's audio only.
I'm trying to look good,
No
but
video.
you get to a point where you got to use it to see what you write.
I should have had him wear him when he wear that damn Morgan Wallen song. You ever went back and listened to him try to do that? sound like a third grader reading it. Guys, before we get into our we're going to go over kind of this week in sports, but let's just talk about the big elephant in the room, especially here in Tennessee. Our very first episode is what is college football. Now, we knew it was going to happen. We predicted it was going to happen. But damn, I didn't think it was going to be like a month later. And it happens at the University of Tennessee. Nico Amalamalea. Yeah. Anyways.
Waka waka.
Waka.
Decides he held out and thought he deserved $4 million. And Tennessee has cut ties with him. And so the first big NIL deal that's happened of a player holding out happens at the University of Tennessee, and it may be setting a precedent.
It may be, and listen, I'm kind of surprised that it was y'all. I
wouldn't say that like we're lower tier, fuck.
Well, y'all are Tennessee, but anyways.
Yeah, we're only the second winningest program in SEC history and in the top 5 all time. But yeah, go ahead.
I just didn't think that it was going to be somewhere like this close to home. Like, I was thinking somewhere like a Big Ten school, maybe out on the West Coast where it is a little different. But this has been shocking.
In a way it is, in a way it isn't, because you got to remember, our state attorney general sued the NCAA over Nico.
Yeah.
If you remember that,
just
a few months ago, over this whole deal, because I think everyone knows that Nico was not going to go to the University of Tennessee unless he got his 4-year, $2 million a year thing. So the AG sues, and the AG out of Virginia helps him with the lawsuit. Mm-hmm. They defeat the NCAA, and then this kid does this not too long ago.
I would like to, I don't know if we'll ever know, but I wonder if it's him or the family. I wonder if it's him, if they saw what happened last year and realized this is going to be hard for him to do in the SEC, and we need to make as much money as we can now.
I think, judging by the way his daddy responded on Twitter, I think it's more the family than what it is him. But I will say that Nico, with that money, was supposed to be making autograph appearances, was supposed to be showing up and doing a bunch of things, and he basically no-showed 99% of those events he was supposed to be in.
Let me read you guys 2 tweets that I don't usually go along with tweets. This is from Mr. Tulit. I have no idea who that is. But I read them, and there's 2 that basically sum up how I feel. Nico Iamaleava is the face of the issue for the whole sport. A 19-year-old kid who became a multimillionaire but still feels slighted. Meanwhile, the same fans who passed down season tickets for generations can no longer afford the games because of it.
Right.
We have all lost, is what he said. The second was Tom Luganville, who I happen to follow and like. The decision made today may be the spark that lights the fuse to course correcting a wildly out of control market where player values are skewed. Somebody needed to take a stand. The question you must ask yourself now is, what is Nico's actual value? Where is his leverage? Will he end up with a program that is in a conference that is a conference title contender with great personnel around him? Because he just gave that up.
100%.
100% he did.
So,
100%. And judging by his teammates' response over the last couple of days and other sports, guys are playing other sports in the University of Tennessee, I don't think there's one person that's shedding a tear over Nico going back home.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody in Knoxville is really going to lose any sleep over him.
Listen, Nico may go on to win the Heisman next year wherever he goes. He may win a national championship. If he does, good luck to him. He's a 19-year-old kid, and I don't hold grudges or anything. Right. I think this all falls along what college football is allowed to happen. But I want to give Josh Heupel, our athletic director, basically our big men with the money at the University of Tennessee, a big shout out, because they said no. Because how could you coach the rest of your team if he sets out and you give him $4 million? How much respect are you going to have on the rest of your team?
I think you have zero.
I think about the money part of it. You got now that star linebacker that you just signed. Now you got to double his contract.
Right.
That right guard or that right tackle has got to protect his blind side, or left tackle's got to protect his blind side. You got to double up his salary too. It becomes, and on top of that, this is the quarterback. He only threw 19 touchdowns.
Yeah, he was 10th in the SEC.
And 11 of those came against Chattanooga, UTEP, and Vandy.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you could go back and single-handedly put the loss at Arkansas on Nico. I mean, you really could.
Well, that's all Twitter's been a buzz with. This is the guy that wants to make $4 million running out of bounds with no time.
With no time on the clock.
And I
don't want to sound like and not to interrupt you, I don't want to sound like one of these Tennessee fans that are just 100% bashing him, because the one bright spot of Tennessee getting killed by Ohio State was Nico. He got killed and kept getting up and kept trying to get first downs and trying to get his the defense, who was great all year, Ohio State torched them. We had no running game. Our receivers weren't very good. The one bright spot against Ohio State was Nico. So I don't want to sound like this is going to be, we're fine without him, because it's going to be tough. He was your only quarterback and the only one getting the reps in. So now you've got to start over. But I would much rather start over than lead into this whole monopoly of, well, all right, we'll give you what you want, because that's just going to start a bad precedent.
Well, hopefully the NCAA will, at some point, there's a court ruling out there supposed to happen soon that will start to shrinking some of this.
Yeah, what was you going to say, big guy?
Well, I think that Josh Heupel also protected Nico. I don't think, and I said it all year long, not just to y'all, but I said it to a good friend of mine as well, and he brought it up yesterday to me. Josh Heupel didn't get to run his offense. Joe Milton run Josh Heupel's offense, but Nico couldn't.
Yeah.
I think Heupel protected him. I just think that Heupel's seen, okay, he's good, but I don't know that he's elite.
Well, it seemed like after the Oklahoma and Arkansas game, everything got so vanilla, and thank God Tennessee had Dylan Sampson.
And a good offensive line.
If they hadn't had a big offensive line in Sampson,
and a defense.
So it could have been a really long year for y'all, but hey, like you said, man.
All right, just real quick, and we'll move on to the next topic. Where do you think he's going? And before we say that, big shout out to Dan Lanning. That guy may be a lot better guy than I ever would have gave him credit for, making sure Josh Heupel knew. I don't know if you know this or not, but your guy's shopping around.
Right. And, I read a thing, and I had a guy tell me, reports state the reason why he wasn't at practice. I know he's holding out, but he was on a visit to UCLA.
I've read that multiple times.
But, that'd be hard to do because he was at his offensive coordinator's house the night before for a dinner.
Right.
So, I mean, not saying that couldn't have happened.
I just think he ends up back out on the West Coast.
Yeah, he might have been there the night before and might have been on the plane the next day.
True, yeah.
The next morning.
Early the next morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, something could happen.
I say West Coast is what I say.
USC, UCLA, that they both need quarterbacks. They both got really good NIL collectives.
And I could see a Big 12 school.
Yeah.
Where they don't play a lot of defense. I could see him like a Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. I think he could do real well.
You can just
real well. But that's and I didn't even realize this new clause. Now he can't go anywhere SEC. Right. So,
right.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Though, if you were Tennessee, you'd probably like to play him because you know what you need to do.
You know what you.
I hope he goes to a Big 12 school and Heupel gives all the secrets to my boys up in Morgantown, so we can win there, and play WVU.
Right. All right, moving on, guys. It's Masters Week, and we've got a really good showdown today. I'm looking forward to watching. You got Rory and you got Bryson DeChambeau. And those two, it's going to be a rematch from the U.S. Open over the summer where Rory as Rory has done in some, and that's going to be a big thing to watch. Does he crumble again?
I'm going to say no. I've got him completing the Grand Slam today.
He seems a lot more focused.
He does seem focused. He just seems like he's just in the zone.
And he seems full of piss and vinegar in them interviews. Have y'all seen him?
Yeah. Piss and vinegar. And listen, he's hitting the ball as good as he can hit it right now.
But can I just say this? Shame on the Masters and the coverage of, up until yesterday, you didn't see DeChambeau.
Right.
They're not going to show those live guys unless they can help it.
That's it. They're going to keep them off TV as much as they can.
Well, there's 3 of them in the top 10, right? And I saw the same thing you guys did. Like, I think it was Bubba Watson's 8th. And they only gave him 2 shots. And
I think they showed him hitting a chip shot tight and a drive one time.
Well, Patrick Reed. He won a Masters a couple years ago.
Fuck Patrick Reed. I don't care about him.
Right, but I'm just saying.
He's a cheater. I don't care if they don't show him.
Right.
Dropping eggs.
Yeah. But it should be a good one to fold out. It should be because listen, DeChambeau, he's just enough that he's not going to go away. DeChambeau's one of those that can bogey the first 2 holes and then make 3 eagles.
And I know we got a wrestling show coming on, but this is kind of wrestling because you got DeChambeau. He's the face. Mm-hmm. Did you see him on 18 yesterday? High-fiving everybody, even going back to the ones he missed. And Rory, at the players was stealing guys' phones because they're talking trash to him.
Yeah.
So,
Might could see a double turn today.
We could see.
A double turn.
We could see.
All right, lastly, before we get into our main topic, which is Wrestlemania, the Braves finally got a win, guys. Did you see that last night?
I'm telling you.
Yeah, they're 4-10 now, but still last in the division. What is going on with the Braves? They literally cannot hit.
They can't hit a lick.
Yeah, I've got a couple on my fantasy team. Trust me.
I don't know what you do. I've had some people say, you need to start looking at coaching and all that. Coaching ain't the one up there swinging a bat.
Well, the same coach won 2 divisions and a World Series with him.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I just think they just maybe the talent. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it should be loaded with talent, but I'm talking your first 5 hitters who I would put against any lineup. I think their team, those first 5 batters I read is like 220 something.
Oh,
the first 5.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's Brave. We did do a Brave show, so I did want to give them a shout out for finally getting a win and beating the Phillies. All right, guys, let's get into it. If any of our viewers, I don't know, this might be a mixed subject with some of our viewers that might not be a lot of wrestling fans, but I know some that are going to tune in and really looking forward to this podcast. But before we even get into it, I got to say, WrestleMania is later this year.
Yeah.
It was earlier last year, and you know how I know that? Because I was drunk at your house last year.
Right.
And yesterday I was a year sober. And WrestleMania hasn't happened yet, so that's how I knew, and I just wanted to thank you guys for everything.
Congratulations on your year of sobriety.
For those that don't know it, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and yesterday was 1 year clean. So now it's just back to a day at a time. We'll work on the next year.
That's right.
But I appreciate you guys. All right, enough of that shit.
was going to say, we did kind of pull a couple pranks on him
Yeah.
last year. Every time we go outside, we go, oh! He comes
Come
running
running
back.
back in. What?
What?
I think a couple of times had my goober in my hand as I was out there taking a leak. Like, what is it? What is it? All right. But anyways, what we kind of discuss, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our top 5 best WrestleMania moments and our top 5 worst WrestleMania moments all through the years. It could be last year. It could go to WrestleMania 1. I've got some honorable mentions. And I tell you what, just starting out, let's talk about our honorable mentions first. Before we get into our list, I've got about 5 on here that I wanted to put on, but I couldn't put in my top 5 of best and worst. Yeah. We'll just do one at a time, just kind of go around it. And hey, if one of us say the same thing, say I got that, and we'll just talk about it. Right. But honorable mention, and some of you may have this on your best, but my honorable mention one is Steamboat and Macho Man WrestleMania 3. I think it's one of the greatest matches of all time.
It's on my best.
Okay. All right. So we'll get to more of that later when we talk about our best. One of my worst. Dusty and I were kind of talking about this. AJ, why would you have Flair and Macho Man in WrestleMania 8 as instead of Flair and Hogan?
Yes.
The whole reason you brought Flair to the WWF.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one of my honorable mentions too. They did a double main event, which now we have them on 2 separate nights. But even back then, it's like double main events. Like if you got 2, it's like quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You got 2 of them, you got none.
Yeah.
So if you got 2 main events, you've got no main events.
Right.
So
And I don't care what anybody says. Whichever one goes last is the main event.
Yes, it's the last match of the night.
Exactly. Well,
Hogan and Sid was the main event.
has anyone actually heard an excuse of why that was not made, other than that BS that Flair and Hogan had said on Flair's 30 for 30? Other than, well, timing just wasn't right. Well, we had wrestled before. Like, we don't care. Like,
Yes.
that was WrestleMania.
Right.
They're in the same
That's right.
freaking company.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what the whole Flair winning the belt at the Rumble was set up for.
And have Savage go up against Sid. I mean, that probably would have been a better match than what
Then you can build Sid up for Hogan later.
Exactly.
Poor Papa Shango out there trying to throw punches and not landing one of them, not even remotely close.
All right, those are a couple of mine. I'll get into some more, but what do you got? Just tell me your honorable mentions.
I got in WrestleMania 5. I've got the Mega Powers Explode.
That's an honorable mention. Explode.
And the reason why is, if do y'all have that on y'all's list at all?
I do.
Well, we'll just talk about it. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
All right. The second one for me, as an honorable mention, talked about this a little bit.
Good or bad?
This is good.
Okay.
Was Demolition and their run at they defended 3 consecutive years
I did not know that.
and won all 3 of them.
And somehow still not in the Hall of Fame.
It's still not in the Hall of Fame.
Someone's got something against them.
Well, I think they had a lawsuit against the WWE
That makes sense.
and maybe still going against them. I don't know.
It may
That
be.
makes sense.
So it may be hard to induct people when they're trying to sue you. I don't know, but I'd say once that all gets settled, they got to get in.
No doubt.
Yep. What you got, man?
So, are we do the good and the bad?
Yeah, honorable mention. Yeah.
So the good, I mean, Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania 17, is that on anyone's list?
Well, that was 18, but yeah,
Well, 18, yeah, and 18, guys, like 2 pros.
it's on mine.
It's on yours. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll talk about
let
that
you
one.
Talk about it. And how about the Rock and Cena matches? And those WrestleManias. Those were, if you go back and watch, the crowd is hot. The matches are pretty good. It's probably the last time that we'll actually see Rock at his peak athleticism, because we saw last WrestleMania he's just a bulked up mess.
Yeah.
But when he was wrestling Cena, honestly I thought he was at his peak athletic.
And I think it was the one he lost that he lost, the second one that he lost to Cena, but he tore his hamstring early in the match
And still win.
went.
You couldn't tell.
No.
Yeah. He was just a freak in the ring.
Now, my bad honorable mentions, the celebrity matches. Like, why is Mickey Rourke? I know he did the wrestler, but why is he wrestling? Like it's awful. And why? I mean, as a sports fan, why is Kane choke slamming Pete Rose?
Yeah.
At WrestleMania. You know, and I love the Jackass crew. I just watched their 4th movie the other day. Like they had a match. Like poor Sami Zayn had. And Johnny Knoxville's great, and it's funny, but it's like this is WrestleMania. It's supposed to be your best event.
And I don't know. Out there? This may be off topic because I don't know if it's a WrestleMania, but what about Umaga beating the living shit out of Steve-O?
Yeah,
whatever that was.
Yeah. And Pontius. Yeah.
He beat I thought he was gonna kill him.
I mean, them guys didn't know you were supposed to be still. Didn't know you were supposed to play dead. I mean, they didn't. Yeah. Somebody should have wised them up because Umaga sure did.
Yeah, Steve-O said that's the hardest he's ever been hit in his life. Yeah. He said it on his podcast, and he said that reaction you see in the ring, that face he's making, that was real. Yeah, because he actually hit him that hard.
Yeah, I mean, he knocked shit out of it.
Yeah. All right.
The other one that I have, and it's probably on your all's list as far as the worst Stone Cold turning heel.
Yes, we'll get in depth about that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Some more honorable mentions. Two best. Taker Triple H Hell in a Cell with Shawn Michaels. Probably underrated. One of the best matches of all time. Mm-hmm. Shawn Michaels and Taker and Mankind, they get the first nods at all the Hell in the Cells and stuff, but that match was a hell of a match. It was a great match, and it was a great send-off to see them all three at the top of the ramp and stuff with their mutual respect. So I put that as one of my best. And that was later on when I had really kind of quit watching. That was WrestleMania 28, and at that point I'd kind of just kind of kept up with highlights. I didn't really watch it. WrestleMania 16. That's you're trying to see if you can carry that ball without Austin. He's out. He's got a bad neck. And you have a 4-way match. Triple H, Rock, Mick Foley, Big Show. And the match was just probably okay, but Triple H ends up winning that, and I think that's where you saw Triple H, the ultimate heel, kind of start taking over. Mm-hmm. That was where he won that belt and kept it. And that's where I think Triple H was born. When Austin disappeared,
right?
That WrestleMania, because what it led to was Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle probably did more in the next year than anybody's done in a career.
Probably so.
But I think that set the way is, hey, we can be okay without Austin. Imagine how great we're going to be when we get him back. And then my worst, Hulk Hogan versus Big King Kong Bundy at WrestleMania 2 in the cage match, which should have been great, and it was, an okay match or whatever, until Bundy is literally 2 foot away from winning the match, and Hogan chokes him through the cage to keep him going out and walks him back up. Well, that won't happen. You can't hold him there.
No.
I don't care if wrestling's scripted or not. That's not how that works. All he's got to do is drop. You're not going to hold him up.
No.
And that was a terrible ending. He got him all the way back over and back in the ring, walked him up with a and it was just terrible, and thank God we got WrestleMania 3 the next year. So those are all my honorable mentions. You guys go ahead.
I got 2 more. On the good side was WrestleMania. It's 2 of them. It's 16 and 17, and it should probably be on the list, and it probably is for y'all, but I didn't go there, and that was both TLC matches.
I was going to say that if you said 16 and 17, I knew exactly what you were going to.
That's one of my best.
And we'll just talk about them a little later. And the second one, you actually talked about it last night. Mm-hmm. This is 2-parter for me. Mm-hmm. So it was bad in a match with Savage Warrior. WrestleMania 7. You had 5 elbow drops consecutive. Warrior kicks out. Mm-hmm. Then you have the military press, the splash, Savage kicks out. Now the Warrior's trying to leave the match. He's standing there looking at his hand, and he's looking up, and he's looking at his hand. And Earl Hebner's like, get back in the ring.
And this is why it's a best and worst.
Yes. Well, my best is actually the end of it.
Elizabeth.
Yeah. And then, of course, you see the ending of it, and it's all done. Sensational Sherry gets in the ring. She starts beating up on Savage. And then here comes Miss Elizabeth. And then, of course, she gets Sherry out of the ring, and the Savage is trying to pull himself up, and he's swinging, and then he about hit Elizabeth, and now it's all like, oh, my God, now what do we do? And that was just a great – because, listen, I watched it I went back and watched that match yesterday, and there are grown women in the crowd sobbing.
Hey, listen, I'm not trying to sound like a puss, but I'm pretty sure I was crying.
I mean, like
when I was a kid,
right?
Not recently,
but like
we're back together.
Yeah, but like that one to me was a great spot in Savage's career. Because for him in the WWF, it was over at that point. Yeah. He was going on to WCW.
And big shout out Bobby the Brain Heenan on the call with Gorilla, saying, "Oh, this is great. If you like this mushy crap."
Yeah. Yes. So that was kind of a two-parter for me. And so what else you got over there?
I went through mine.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into worst first. Let's get into worst. All right. Let's go from 5 to 1. We'll all do our 5, and if it coincides with some of ours, hey, we'll just put our hand up. My number 5 worst of all time is LT versus Bam Bam in WrestleMania 11. How shitty was the WWE at the time? Love Bam Bam Bigelow. Probably one of the most stand-up guys. I don't think you can find anybody in the locker room that had anything bad to say about Bam Bam. Right. And maybe he should have at some point main evented a WrestleMania. Fucking LT? How bad was the WWF at that time if that's your main event? I don't care if it's in New York or not.
It don't matter.
Yeah, it goes back to my celebrity in the honorable mentions.
Yes.
Like they relied. It worked in the early going, especially 1 and 3. It worked in the early going.
Well, yeah, but
they kept going to that well one too often, and that's LT wasn't even playing football anymore.
Yeah.
Then one thing if he was
still the greatest linebacker in the game.
Exactly. Or Tyson was still hot when they brought him out with Austin and Shawn. So what? I mean, they brought out a retired guy and put him in football gear. It just wasn't work.
Well, and again, I think it just shows there wasn't at that time. Let's see, 11. What year would 11 been? 93.
No, it's 93 was 9, so it would have been 95.
95.
Okay. Yeah. That shows both wrestling companies at that time weren't very good, but the WCW was kind of on the rise because Hogan was there. You still didn't have the NWO yet.
No.
But wrestling at that time in 95 sucked.
It was terrible.
Go ahead, big guy.
My first one, and listen, I could go, you could just name mine.
Start number 5. Your worst.
My worst.
Unless you don't have them in order, and then just spout out one.
My number 5 is Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt the Fiend. And I hate to talk about Bray Wyatt like this in a bad match, but if y'all remember, this match was in the dark. They had this red light on, and I don't know, and I understand that Bray had been fighting some demons, and I'm pretty sure it was probably in the midst of that right there. It just wasn't a good match, and I mean, and they had Alexa Bliss, who is outside the ring. She's got this black stuff coming out of her mouth that distracted Bray Wyatt for Randy to win. And then, like, Bray and Alexa just kind of disappeared, like, off TV. Right. I just thought that was a bad spot. That match, to me, was...
Same thing. I felt like they were grasping at straws, and it almost looked like late 80s, early 90s writing there at one time with the snake pit and everything.
Yeah, it was too much.
Ultimate Warriors, Puka Green, because of Papa Shango.
Yeah.
I mean, hot take. I've got a bunch on this list, but a hot take is... Can you really think of a good Bray Wyatt match? Because I can't. Nothing against him, God rest his soul, but I can't think of a excellent. I have to go back and watch Bray.
There was a couple that he had. There was one that he had with Cena that I enjoyed, that I thought was a good match. But other than that, no. Most of it, you were just. What was the clique? What was it? The Wyatt family.
Yeah.
Family. Yeah.
That was a good stable, I thought. But no, you can't really go back and say, boy, that was not being Dave Meltzer here, but that's not a 5-star.
Right.
The Hell in the Cell with the DQ.
Yeah,
that's all one of the Hell in the Cell.
Yeah, no DQ. I know. Right. Hell in the Cell. They're in the cell. There is no DQ. Hits him with the chair, and now we got a DQ. Right. What are we doing?
Why do we have to bring his cage down for this?
Exactly.
Yep. Go ahead, AJ.
Oh, I'm like you. I don't have mine in a particular order.
Yeah,
but I'm going to come out swinging here. I'm going to go after Shane McMahon. He was in 5 matches, and let me count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excuse me, 6 matches. The one with his dad was good because it was entertaining. The one with AJ Styles was good, but the rest of them, like, you got Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. They don't need Shane McMahon. He's going up against The Undertaker. He went the match against The Miz. They fell off of whatever it was, a canopy, into a bunch of boxes in a mat. Yeah. We all saw the things, and they should have just popped up. Like, we know you're not hurt. We know wrestling is scripted, but his match against X-Pac, I watched it the other day. It just wasn't great. I mean, it was just too much. Oh, what's Shane going to fall off of? That's what all these matches revolved around. What table? What big stunts Shane going to do? But his punches sucked. The rest of his moveset, except for that cross thing from rope through, okay, that's impressive. And the one he did on his dad, oh my gosh, how Vince isn't dead after that. But really, just way too much Shane McMahon.
I agree. I agree. One thing about Shane, he can take an ass whipping, but that don't mean you need to be in WrestleMania.
I don't mean.
He never wrestled for. Did he ever have a title?
No.
What was the point? This is your biggest show of the year, and you're just. I know he's trying to get Daddy's approval, and he literally whipped his dad's own rear end.
I just think he was just taking spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
filler.
Yeah.
Spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a spot.
All right. Number 4 on my list, it's just how I've got them wrote. WrestleMania 20, Goldberg versus Lesnar.
I got that one.
That should have been a main event. That should have been, but as it works out, both of them are getting ready to leave. And you had to have Stone Cold as your referee to stun both of them at the end of it, because both of them at Madison Square Garden were getting booed
they were
out of the place.
They were yelling, sell out, you sold out, and this all kind of stuff.
And that should have been, that's Goldberg when he first comes to WWE and he is destroying people. That's Brock when he is, built like a brick shithouse. Yeah.
And he was in its prime. Because he was leaving to go to UFC.
And it was a bad mix. You had both guys leaving. You had Stone Cold in the ring, and you're doing it in front of maybe the smartest of the smart crowds.
Yeah.
In Madison Square Garden in New York City.
And the match was bad.
The match was bad on top of it. Like, it was just every single bit of bad you can find for one wrestling match happened right there.
So that's two of the biggest names you'll see in a match that absolutely was awful.
It was awful.
So go ahead.
My next one is going to be WrestleMania 9, and it is Taker versus the Giant Gonzalez.
Yeah, what a piece of crap that was. That whole Vegas,
that whole WrestleMania 9.
That owned the worst. Just that whole WrestleMania.
That might be the worst WrestleMania of all time.
Okay,
I've got a lot about it.
But I've seen the podcast where Taker's actually got to talking about it. Right. He's told him, "Don't hit me in the back of the neck." Mm-hmm. And what he do, hit him like 3 times. Taker finally hit him, and the guy, he can't even hardly speak to him. And he's like, "Why'd you hit me for?" It's like, "Hell, dude, I'm tired of you hitting me in the back of the neck."
I'm tired of these potatoes.
Yeah, but yes,
that outfit he had on too, with the patches of hair and painted on.
That was another one of those characters that Vince just messed up for me.
Right. It's so bad.
What you got?
We kind of touched on it earlier. WrestleMania 2. This is where Vince got a little bit, he was feeling himself a little.
3 different venues.
3 different venues, and they were kind of consecutive, and they even did a little bit of back and forth and simulcast. Like, none of those matches were really main event worthy. Maybe the best was the actual real boxing match between Piper and Mr. T.
Mr. T.
But the rest of it, I just fast forward through it the other day, and I want to go through it just to see if there's one match I'm going to stop for. And I didn't. I'm like, this is awful. That was just, we put on one good match in a place that we sell out every time we go to. And now we think we can do 3 places at one time.
Greedy.
Got way too greedy.
Way too greedy.
Yeah, I agree. This one may be a little controversial, but Taker loses to Brock, WrestleMania 30. Hey, great match. Great match. But I don't felt like that was where you needed to end the streak. And I think their whole thing was, well, if Brock doesn't beat you, who beat you? Well, hey, if the right guy don't come along, nobody.
Right.
But Brock didn't need to push.
Yeah.
That's where I was at with the whole thing. I don't know that it needed to be broke.
Right. I'm with you. I agree.
My
with that.
opinion.
Or maybe it needed to be a Triple H, or maybe it needed to be.
I just don't
Shawn.
think it was Lesnar.
Yeah.
And y'all know how I feel about Lesnar. Every Monday, I think, or every Friday, I think,
Praying he's coming back.
his music's going to hit when I see Paul Heyman. But, like, I don't think that Lesnar should have been the guy to break the streak myself. I would have much rather seen John Cena break it than Lesnar.
Well, and if you're going to do it, you don't do it in a 5th match of the night.
Right.
You do it. That's a mania.
Yeah,
if you're going to, you build that up, and you put the belt on Taker.
Yeah.
Yes.
Months before, and you build that up.
Yep.
For somebody to beat him in a main event
Yep.
to break the streak. You don't do it the way they did it in a 5th match.
And that entrance was maybe his best WrestleMania.
It may-
entrance with all the caskets and
Yeah.
the Brock's comes up with the flames.
Yep.
Like they totally ruined that by having Brock win.
They did.
Go ahead.
All right, my next one is WrestleMania 35.
So yeah, you'll have to just tell me what it is.
Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It was a 6-minute match. And you had Kurt Angle lose. And that was his retirement match.
Right.
How do you let Kurt Angle lose his retirement match to Baron Corbin?
And that brings up another point. Why do guys have to lose on the way out? Like
So that-
it wasn't a championship match.
No, it was just a match.
Listen, if you're going to do the favors, to me, that only means you give the belt to somebody.
Right.
You don't. I mean, if you're sending, just like hey, they did it right with Stone Cold. He decided to come back and he whipped Kevin Owens' ass,
Yeah.
and he ended on a win.
Right.
I feel like that's how it should be.
Or a positive thing about AEW, even though it was for the titles, Sting won in his last match.
Right.
Like
And Kurt Angle was such an iconic figure to the WWE for so many years, and his whole story.
Right.
And Baron Corbin?
Listen, I've got Kurt Angle as number 2 right behind Shawn Michaels as bell to bell. There's nobody better in the ring. Technical, athletic, to me, bell to bell. I
can do it all.
Yeah.
Can jump
I
off
put
the
one
rope.
more in front of him, but that's for another topic.
get you. Benoit.
Bret Hart.
Yeah, that's tough. I got them. Those are my top 3.
Right.
Kind of almost piggybacking on using one of your names. My next one is the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar trilogy of matches at WrestleMania.
Well, it was during that time they're trying so hard to shove Roman Reigns down all of our throats.
And Brock is powerful, and in his early days, I thought he was a better wrestler in his earlier days than what his older days were. But like one of those matches, they're literally booing the whole time. Another one, Seth Rollins has to save him with his Money in the
Money in
Bank.
the Bank.
Oh, if he doesn't do that, that match is a complete flop.
Oh, it's a complete flop, and everyone's leaving by midway through the match. Like there's just, I've went back, kind of fast forward through them, just like, the crowd is dead, no one's making any noise. You can literally hear conversations on the cameras, like people near the cameras and the mics
Right.
having conversations. Like we didn't feel that way with Roman and Cody. We didn't feel that way with some of these other matches we're watching where it's so dead silent. It was, again, it was a dead period in WWE time, but they didn't need, and then they brought it back again at SummerSlam over in Nashville. Like we didn't need this many Brock and Roman matches. Like,
Well, again,
2
I
was
think
okay.
it was in that time where they were like, McMahon was basically like, damn it, you're going to like Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And then finally they realized, and it might have been Triple H that finally decided, look, if we want him to like it, we're going to turn him heel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can't be a face and everybody love him.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
And wrestling fans are smarter than that.
And there's a video, my son loves watching these wrestling entrances video. There's an awesome Roman Reigns entrance where he punches the floor and it turns into fire. But it's ruined because the fans are booing him the whole
Right.
time. And he's supposed to be your baby face.
Yes.
All right. My number 2, Austin and Rock, WrestleMania 17. Y'all may have it as some of your best. I don't know. But to me, it could have been. Yeah. To me, how it should have went, if it goes like it should, I think it may be one of the greatest WrestleMania main events of all time. Right. The build-up was great. Yeah. The Limp Bizkit video.
Right. Yes.
Everything. I mean, that thing, you see these memes going out. The world has never been more divided than it is now with all the political stuff going on. Like, bullshit, you would have seen this in 2001.
Yeah.
Rock and Austin.
Right.
But you can turn Austin heel. He can beat the hell out of The Rock with a chair. He can do whatever it takes to win, but there was no need in McMahon coming down and helping him. There was no need in it.
I think that was one of those other points where McMahon got in his own way, and he ruined a match.
And you've talked about the ending. Like, McMahon just stands there while Stone Cold, like, there was no stunner, there was no great.
He handed him a chair. That was it.
A chair. Yeah. He just beats the living daylights out of him. And if you want to look big picture at it, their business was really still booming. After that, that's where it turned down until it didn't pick up until 2 years
ago. That's what I was going to say. The reason I've got it there is because look what business did after that. He'd bought WCW. That transition went awful. That whole alliance deal. You had the shittiest wrestlers in WCW.
Yes.
You had to bring on ECW wrestlers to make that combine. Still not very good.
Not good at all.
And that was no disrespect toward Booker T. You had some bigger names, but you didn't have the big ones. You didn't have Flair. You didn't have Sting. You didn't have the NWO. If you were going to do it, that's the way you should have done it.
Right.
But it just went bad, you go back and watch some of those Austin clips, him being the heel, him back in the dressing room with McMahon. Thank God he's funny. Because other than that, it was just so bad because The Rock was gone. That's why he got beat. That's why Austin won that belt, because The Rock was gone to make movies. He was gone for about a year. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's where you got into that little lull that eventually led to Austin taking his ball and going home.
Right.
Because McMahon got lazy. He didn't have any competition he had to beat.
No,
he owned it.
Yeah, you're right. So he was just kind of like, I got all this money coming in, so I don't have to do it.
Well, honestly, I think it was like, hey, I've got all these shit brain ideas that I've had spewing. Well, now I don't have to worry about it. I can just do whatever I want. Right. What's my competition?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it killed the business until it picked back up 2 years ago. I mean, think about when was 1705? No.
17 would have been
01.
01. So the next one,
two decades to pick back up. That's how seismic that was.
Exactly. And
the next year you did have Rock and Hogan. Yeah. You had some big moments, but the business, to me, that's when it started to go down.
Yep. I agree.
And if it hadn't been for John Cena, CM Punk, and a few, there may not be wrestling right now.
Oh.
But anyways, go ahead.
My last one, because me and you hit Lesnar Goldberg together. This is my number one. It's WrestleMania 27. Michael Cole versus Jerry the King Lawler.
Yeah.
With Stone Cold Steve Austin as the special guest referee. Yes. And folks, don't go back and watch this match. If you want to go back and listen to everything we're talking about and you want to watch matches, that's great. But don't go back to this one. Stone Cold couldn't even save this match.
Right.
They go 14 minutes.
That's problem number one.
For sure, problem number one. Lawler wins. But now here's the kicker. Y'all remember at this point in WWE, they thought it was cool to have this anonymous Raw general manager. Mm-hmm. And so Lawler wins, and then we get the and the Raw general manager switches the winner to Michael Cole. Do y'all remember who the anonymous general?
I don't even remember, but I remember it being so bad.
It was Hornswoggle.
Hornswoggle.
The little man.
You set it back, and this match is horrible. Like,
it's bad.
And they were trying to build it up. They were turning Cole heel at the announce table. He's just ripping everybody that's a babyface. It may be the worst match in wrestling history in the WWE. One of them.
That brings up a good point, sort of in a ways. Why does the play-by-play guy have to be a face or a heel?
Right.
Like
I've never understood.
I don't either. I
do like Cole and Pat. Now, I mean, they're just calling it like it is. And
yes, he's calling.
Yeah, Pat may every once in a while slip up and call Dominic Mysterio a douchebag, but that's okay. That's what we're all thinking.
Yeah, we're all thinking that, Pat. He just says it for us. And he gets Michael Cole out of Bret Eaton when Jay comes down to the ring. But really, like, that match right there, like, I don't even know what the point was.
Filler, a bad filler.
A bad filler.
Jim Ross had matches in pay-per-views. Like, why? Mm-hmm. He's literally paralyzed in his face, and you're going to put him in a wrestling match?
Yeah, I mean, they had him on his hands and knees kissing McMahon's ass.
Yeah.
Stone Cold has to come down.
Go ahead, AJ.
kind of
still on worst.
Yeah, I'm still torn which one. You sort of touched on it earlier. I'm just going to go WrestleMania 9 in general. I just finished watching the behind the scenes documentary, which it is what it is. It's a WWE puff piece. Like they totally we sold the place out. Like, no, you were actually handing out tickets on the strip for people to
please come.
Because you had 16,000 seats and only sold about 10,000, which for today, that's a great crowd. When we have an outdoor show for your biggest show of the year, you mentioned Giant Gonzalez and The Undertaker. And that most people say the best match on the card wasn't even shown. It was Papa Shango and what was the guy with the bowl? Oh crap! He used to wear green pants. I can't even think.
El Matador?
Yeah, El Matador. Was it just El Matador? I thought he had a name.
I don't know, but I know who you're
Are you
talking
talking about
about.
Savio Vega?
No. He wore this whole Matador outfit. It was green and gold. Most people say the best match that night was the first one, and they didn't.
It was a Tito, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Tito Santana.
Tito Santana.
The El Matador.
Yeah.
Tito. Yeah. Okay.
But the Undertaker, Giant Gonzalez match was bad. Like, they have a guy on the documentary, and I can't get it out of my brain. He goes, man, the whole card, everyone says all these matches were awful. I mean, I thought most of them were pretty good. I mean, even Doink and Crush was pretty good. I'm like, stop it. Anyone that says Doink and Crush, period, and uses the word good in the same sentence is stupid. It's just stupid. But
It's like an oxymoron.
Yeah.
but it goes back to the big thing is, and me being a Bret Hart guy, why? Okay, Yoko beating Bret, okay, that's fine. I can handle Yoko beating Bret, but it was short because Yoko got gassed, and then you had the stupid, how does, in any sport, and we're supposed to be sports-based and reality-based, you have Bret Hart with black hair, and now it's gray. His whole face is covered in white, and you're thinking, oh, I don't know how it got that way. Yoko pins the guy. It was an awful match. Then Hulk Hogan, who clearly got his rear end kicked by Randy Savage, even though the documentary says it was a jet ski accident that only him and his best friend, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, saw. No one else on the lake saw that crap go down. Just those two. And then he comes in, and then he said he's going to return the favor to Bret, and he doesn't. And of course, Hogan, you can't, every word out of his mouth is a lie.
It's so sad.
Every word out of his mouth is a lie. It's like, oh, I was never going to do that. Everyone else seems to have a different opinion.
Cornette has a whole 1 hour long deal where they fact check all these stories. They'll show him.
That's the hardest I've heard those guys.
And it's 100% proven wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad. This is the guy who we grew up loving wrestling.
This was our hero.
It's.
Yeah, the best part of that is the entrance when they bring out Bobby Heenan and when
backwards on the camel.
backwards, that was his idea.
Yeah,
and he turns around, his toga comes up, and he's got
how great was the brain?
He was amazing.
The blue tighty whities on. But most of the matches were just awful. The match again, Crush and Doink. At what point? That's not even a good dark match, and they put that on a WrestleMania.
I'm pretty sure that was JR's first WrestleMania.
It was.
They mentioned,
and I think it was Brain's last.
Could have been.
It could have been.
It would be
It
close.
wasn't his last WWE
But to tell you how
show.
bad of a WrestleMania is, the two best things on it were JR and Bobby the Brain.
Right.
Yeah, the matches sucked, and then
the
your
crowd-
two commentators are great.
Crowd was dead. No one seemed to care. Again, that was a double main event because it was Ted DiBiase and Erwin R. Shyster, Bray Wyatt's dad. And they specifically chose those two to work with Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Hogan because, remember, Beefcake had that horrible accident. And
Yes.
He actually did have a jet ski.
Yes,
accident.
He actually did have a jet ski accident, and he had that horrible
His whole face had to be reconstructed.
So they made sure I want to put my best two workers and make sure these guys don't get hurt. Then Hogan shows up, stitches with the biggest black eye you can think of. Everybody else says that Savage beat the hell out of him. But he's like, no, it's just a jet ski accident, brother. Savage would never hurt me. I'm like, have you heard his rap song?
Right.
Have you heard Savage's rap song? Of course he would hurt you.
Go ahead. What's your other one? Because I want to do mine last because it may be controversial. It's something we may need to talk about for a while.
Well, this is probably going to be pretty controversial.
Hogan Warrior?
No, it's not Hogan and Warrior.
That's what mine is. So go ahead.
This is a controversial take, and all my friends, you guys are probably going to rate me for this one too. Triple H, in general. Okay,
That's Dusty's guy now. You better watch your damn mouth.
I know.
Wow, he's a big fella. Easy.
The Hell in the Cell match was good, but they did it twice, and the other one was not nearly as good as the first one. I hated the whole Booker T thing. Booker T should have went over that.
100%.
And the way that he pinned him and the slow crawl, like this is my son. My father-in-law runs his company. I can do whatever the hell I want to right now. That's always irked me. That's always bugged me. He has been in so many title matches and main event matches, and for the most part, he's had 24 matches in WrestleMania. Why did he go over Sting? Sting should have won. Batista, you can somewhat understand, but that match is terrible. The Sting match is terrible. Some of these others, okay, Jericho, yeah, you can win. He did lose to Cena, which I agree. I think Orton should have beat him at least one of the 2 times that they faced each other. I just think, I don't want to say the quality of the matches were terrible. Not all of them were. There are some really good ones in there. I just think he used his power and his leverage way too much when some guys should have went over more than what they did.
Can I give you my honest take before you fire off here? I like Triple H a whole lot more now than I ever have.
Right.
But I looked at it the same way you are. I always looked at it like he knows he's never going to be considered Hogan, Austin, Rock, Cena. He knows he's never going to be a Mount Rushmore type. That the way I look at it, he felt like he had that LeBron mentality. Yeah. If I can just be longevity and say, well, look how many main events, look how many WrestleMania, I've got to get that push. And to go with, I'm the son-in-law of the company, I felt like it was a bad look. But now to his credit, when Rock and Austin left, when you were in that situation, what was the click with Batista and
Evolution?
Evolution did some things that kept a lot of people watching wrestling. Not myself mostly, but so go ahead, big guy.
Listen, I think that you're kind of right with the whole. My daddy-in-law owns the business. I can do what I want to, but Triple H, I feel like, is the greatest heel that we've ever seen.
I think so.
And I think that in those matches, not all of them, I think he deserved to be there. I think that Triple H, he's got 14 titles. Mm-hmm. And it might have been Vince that stopped the run to say, okay, you're not going to pass Ric Flair. Might have been Vince. I don't know.
I doubt it.
Him and Flair were pretty close.
Right, and maybe Triple H said, I'm not going to do it.
I would say it'd be more Triple H that said it than Vince, because Vince didn't like Flair. That wasn't one of his boys. Yeah.
But where I think I fell in love with Triple H, and it's just, it's bad, when he beat the brakes off Shawn Michaels with that sledgehammer when he turned on him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that was like the almighty turn. And from there, I just fell in love with him.
Yeah. I like him. I just think that there was just too much of him when there should have been some other guys that should have went over it.
Well, clearly, I think we would all agree. Why in the hell you finally got Sting?
Yes.
And
that whole match that's the definition of overbooked.
Yes.
Definition.
That match didn't need the NWO and DX.
Yeah.
That match just needed.
Well, if you're going to do DX, you don't bring NWO. Hell, Sting hated the NWO.
He hated them. Now they're helping.
Hell, you bring out Luger, you bring out Booker T, you bring out.
I don't know if Luger could have walked at that point.
You bring out Flair, you bring out WCW guys.
Yeah, not the NWO.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, all right, I'm right there with you. All right, you said you were done because we had one.
Yeah.
All right, last one. We're going to take a break after this one. We'll come back, but Hogan Warrior. I'm sure you may. Do you have it on your best?
Nope.
Okay.
I had it wrote down in my honorable mention, but I knew that
I've got Hogan Warrior because I think it showed that you really can't have two baby faces in a main event. I think that it showed what it led after that, because it maybe it needed to happen, but Warrior was not the guy, because he's a terrible worker, and apparently he was a terrible human. Not to speak ill will of the dead, but he could not take that ball and run with it.
No.
He wanted to get out of that match 5 minutes into it. They were in a naked chokehold or something. He said, "Let's go home." And Hogan said, "No, dude, we've got 20 more minutes." Right. So it does show how great Hogan could be. Even though Hogan only had maybe 5 or 6 moves, he could tell a story in the ring, and Warrior couldn't. And everything that it led after that whole next year, that whole run. I mean, you had Sergeant Slaughter, who, I mean, how can Sergeant Slaughter end up with the belt and that be your main event next year? Because that's not.
As an Iraqi sympathizer.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I got that on my top. Oh. But there's a reason why.
Yeah, we'll get it.
And we'll get into it.
But anyways, that is my top. My number one worst is just the fact of, at the time when you were a kid, I remember my cousin Dylan and I. He was a Warrior guy. I was a Hogan guy. I mean, we were fighting. Because of it. So the build-up should have been good. But my main reason it's the worst is Vince McMahon gets a lot of credit for the good things, but to me, he's kind of like Trump. He's never going to take the blame for the bad things. Yeah. And Warrior, he rode down that saddle because he loved how he looked, and it almost, I mean, it was terrible.
It was awful.
And they, the match itself is good. The crowd was hot, and the lead up to it was great. The problem with it was, what do you do after? Because Warrior just beat everybody in 3 minutes on his way up to the top. Well, who are you going to bring? You going to bring
the best match you had? Dusty's already talked about. That was with Macho, and that's because Macho constructed all of
everything.
It. And he still had to win with 4 shoulder block tackles.
Right.
I mean, that's how bad of a wrestler he was.
It just wasn't. You're right, 100% on it. It's
all right,
good match.
It's going to take just a short break, and then we'll get into our best. Get ready to send it home. All right, let's get back to it. Let's get into our best. Now, AJ, I didn't tell you this, but me and Dusty kind of talked about it. We're not going to put Hogan and Andre in our top, because that's everybody's one. I mean, it kind of set the tone for what WrestleMania is and was, even though it might not be the best match. I mean, you guys have heard the story behind the making of that match.
A million times.
Not knowing if Andre was going to do business or not. Whether you believe anything Hulk Hogan says, I think that is one of his truthful stories, because a lot of other people backed it.
Right.
And not knowing, and that, I mean, there's not a lot of things I can remember from being a kid, but that's one I could. Him body slamming the Giant with the leg drop and winning that title, and him and Heenan riding away on that cart. I mean, it was great.
It's amazing.
All right, so we're going to leave that one off, but my number 5 is a 2-parter. Now, I think you've already talked about it a little bit, but we'll talk about it more. Is WrestleMania 4 and 5. The Mega Powers unite and the Mega Powers collide. You had WrestleMania 4, to me, the whole tournament thing, and you can look at it, and a lot of people could say, well, you had Hogan and Andre in a card in a match that wasn't a main event, but I thought if you were going to do it that way and set it up for somebody else, they probably did it the right way. But then you have Hogan to come out. First time we really ever seen that. Seen a guy coming from the back to help somebody that was a good guy. We've seen heels do it a lot. Yeah. But that was the first time we'd seen somebody, and Miss Elizabeth leaving to go get, and who's she come back with? Who's just got Hogan? Yeah. I mean, remember being a kid just going jumping all over the place. And then they unite, go on that year run, and then they built that story so well. Yes, and they just kept, every main event, every Saturday night main event, everything, it just kept getting a little bit more intense, that led to WrestleMania 5 and them colliding, and of course, obviously, we know what happens in that. 3 elbow drops, and Hogan no-sells and gets up and pumps up and beats him, and it leads to the breakup of Macho Man and Elizabeth, and leads to WrestleMania 7, what you had said. But anyways, that's my number 5 in the best WrestleMania moments.
To put something to that, do y'all know that's the first time that the titles changed hands? The WWF Championship changed hand in a main event. Well, that was the first time.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
But from 1 to 5, that was the first time that the title changed hands. Yeah, I wrote it. The world title changed hands for the first time in Mania.
Yeah.
So I guess number 5, and it's 2 of them, and some people may have them way up higher on the list, and you could probably put them up there, but it's WrestleMania 25 and 26, and it is Undertaker versus Shawn. You got Mr. WrestleMania and Shawn Michaels, and then you got the Taker. The streak's intact. It's already been talked about, but you still got Mr. WrestleMania and Shawn Michaels. And these two just beat the hell out of each other for 2 WrestleManias.
Shawn Michaels climbing up is telling him to do it.
Yep. Just listen, Shawn Michaels, we know he's a Hall of Famer and all this, but I still don't think he gets credit like he should. We're talking about the best in ring, with Hart and all them guys. Shawn Michaels amazing.
Oh yeah, well,
just amazing. But I think that's where you really seen Shawn hand Taker the WrestleMania moment.
Well, and I also think that was during a time where a lot of wrestling fans like me had dropped off, but you still kept those guys having those matches to keep people like me going, well, I got to watch it for this.
Right.
I may not even care about the main event, but I'm watching it for that.
Yep. I just think
and you had those 2 old guys, the best match of the night.
Yes. And they really were the best match of the night.
Yeah, you took one of my 5 there. That one. I think it's the most underrated rivalry in all of wrestling. Because
even go back to the Hell in the Cell.
Because the build-up to the first WrestleMania match was great. Hell in the Cell was great. They had another match that was awesome. Remember, Kane debuted during their Hell in the Cell match in Kansas City.
Michaels gets the win because of that.
Yes.
Because of that. Kane almost didn't make it because he got caught in traffic in St. Louis, which is another funny story. But then they have this whole, Shawn Michaels, I need to get this win back. It means, it lasted for a whole year. And, he couldn't, I think Taker had the title at the time, and he didn't win the Royal Rumble. And remember, they didn't shoot any of the Rumble. They just shot Shawn for 5 minutes.
Right.
And then he gets this slam. He's like, I want my rematch. Undertaker tells him no. But then he starts messing with the Undertaker. Next thing you know, he's open for WrestleMania. And the matches were different. The first one, it's right at it the whole entire time. The second one, it was slow. It was a slow build to it. I love Undertaker coming out and Shawn's just unfazed. He is so focused on it and has this just a great build up to it. It's career on the line. Streak versus career.
Yep.
It was on the line. And then Undertaker has to tombstone him 5 times because Shawn keeps getting up and talking trash, and finally he tombstones him.
Right. So that's enough.
Yeah.
It's the most underrated rivalry. A title never changed hands in it, which I can understand that part, and why maybe some people don't put it up at the top, but the build, the characters involved, and the matches alone, they all lived up to the hype, exceeded the hype.
Yeah. All right. My number 4, WrestleMania 13. To me, the greatest match of all time. Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin. You said you got it on your best.
I do, but I have one I can fill in the spot.
Okay. Well, listen. Here's the deal. The match was one of the best. You want to talk about telling a story? That was the best match. Austin letting Hart take control of it because, again, we talked about Shawn Michaels. If he's 1A, then Hart's 1B. I don't think there's 2.
Right.
And I don't think him and Shawn Michaels do get enough credit for the WD not falling to pieces and going under when Hogan goes to WCW in those bad times. But to do a double turn right there. What happens to wrestling? Does WCW put WWE out of business if you don't do that double turn and turn Austin babyface in that? Because look what it led to. What if that doesn't happen? That's why it's so big to me. What if that doesn't happen? What if you don't give him the color and let him pass out in his own blood and Bret Hart turn bad and him start to turn good? What happens to the future of wrestling if that doesn't happen? Because WCW was kicking WWE's ass at that time.
They were. I think you're right. And we'd never seen that. You know, that was the first time we'd really seen in the middle of a ring changing. You know,
the only thing close to it was what was WrestleMania 7, Macho Man with Elizabeth coming out. That's the only time we'd ever seen that turn.
Right. And that wasn't near.
That wasn't a double turn. No, I mean, that was just
we literally watched a double turn, and like I go back to Ken Shamrock. Like,
did a great job.
That's what I was going to say. He done a phenomenal job right there. And at the end for me, because I rewatched that match yesterday, just to so it's fresh.
Do you give up?
Yes. And you know, you got Stone Cold. He's doing a push up, and then it's
thinks he's broke it. But Hart keeps a hold of it, gets back in it.
And listen, you know, they can say what they want to, and we talk about Brett, how he could go. His ass was dragging when that match was over.
Yeah.
Stone Cold give him all he wanted. I mean, that was amazing. But at the end, when you seen Shamrock put his hands on Bret Hart, and he done that takedown.
Belly to back?
Yep. You knew right then, like, okay, here we go. Yep, this is it. And, you know.
That rivalry, Hart and Austin was a good rivalry. Remember one of the better, what was it, In Your Houses, their Calgary Stampede that they did in that 8-man tag? That's a heck of a match.
Well, and it also built up the badass of Stone Cold because, I mean, honestly, if you go back and you see the storyline leading up to WrestleMania, Austin should have been clearly the heel.
You put the S in front of Hitman, then you get my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he was such a douche. But at that time, wrestling fans started changing. You know, they didn't want that typical baby face. They didn't care about eating your vitamins and saying your prayers. You know, we wanted a badass to tell the boss to kiss our ass.
Yep, that's what you wanted,
and that's where it all turned. You said you had one you could fill in.
We'll stay with Brett. I love the Iron Man match.
Oh, because
you think it's different than most Iron Man matches that you think of, especially now today. And AEW did one, and they had 9 falls in it. They went into overtime, and you go back and watch it. It's pretty action.
That was WrestleMania.
Yeah, it was WrestleMania. It was a headline, I think
12.
Yeah, that was 12.
Before 13.
So Brett had the title. The time expired. So he thought he'd won it, and he did that sell job where he's walking out, and then they said, "No, you got to come back in. We're putting 5 more minutes on."
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. That was a great match.
And the fact that you had 2 of the best workers ever, and you can put Kurt Angle in that conversation for sure. But if you have a top 5 list of greatest workers, these 2 are in the top 3 of them for sure. Now you can put them wherever. Of course, I'm a brag.
Well, I think it goes back to what I was just saying. They kept the WWE afloat.
In this match, it's action. They called everything in the ring for an hour. Not much was planned out. And both of them have reference for it, except Brett didn't like the way that Sean celebrated at the very end. But Brett's, I love him, but he's a pretty spiteful guy.
Oh yeah,
the action, all the stuff they do.
The only person I know holds grudges more than Bret Hart's my wife.
Yeah, but the psychology into it, they had their mentors there. Sean's entrance into it. I mean, the whole thing was great. I went back and watched it the other day. I'm like, do I remember this? Because true story. I faked being sick one day at school because I knew the video store that day, WrestleMania 12 was going to be to rent.
Right.
So I came up, called Dad. Dad came and got me. And he's like, well, it's like, just give me some ginger ale. Can we go to the video store? And
give me something to watch.
I've never moved so fast, sick in my life, to go right to the wrestling part.
Had to get there before somebody else checked it out.
And he starts side-eyeing me. And I know he knew what I was doing. Because, I felt great that night. But and I knew how it turned out, and that's the way it was.
Yeah, we're the same way. I mean, you remember, and listen, folks, any of our younger viewers used to have to go to a place called Blockbuster or Video Village or
Mine was Video Madness, and you had to cross a very dangerous road on foot to get there. So.
And we actually had to hope it was in to watch. We couldn't just get it on our smart TV.
Did they put the videos behind the case? Or ours was it was a little.
Well, that's how you knew if it's in or not.
Yeah, it was multiple. If it was a little token on a little hook, you have to pick it up and go take it to the table.
That was Video Village.
That was Video Village.
And if it had more than those, it was like, oh boy, we're having a party tonight.
Right.
You know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that, and I'm sure I can find another one.
Well, it's a
for the
5-star
place.
match. I mean,
It's
and again, they're keeping that business
Yeah.
afloat because from about 10 to 14,
Yeah,
WWE was in the shits.
yeah. I've
All
got
right.
another one to fill in for.
My number 3, guys, and this is more sentimental than it is anything, but last year, Cody and Roman.
Great.
I've still got a video on my phone of us.
Yeah,
Because we knew it was coming. We thought it was Austin coming out, but as soon as we started getting the run-ins, I videoed it, and I got Dusty's son on it. I've got us 3.
Yeah.
You know, where I'm just doing around to get the reactions when Taker comes out. And, I mean, I was a little kid again last year.
Yes.
When that happened. I mean, it was to build that up the way, props to Triple H, props to the WWE. Wrestling, you know, that moment I said wrestling's back. Because I've been hooked on it ever since. I hooked back on it ever since. So, to me, last year, WrestleMania 40, I mean, it was, shit, I'd pay for it again.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My next one is WrestleMania 23. Cena versus Shawn.
Okay.
Shawn tapped him, or Cena tapped him out. You know, back then I think it was he called it it was the AA. Ross kept calling it, and then it wasn't enough. He just couldn't finish him off, and then he done the STF right there in the middle of the ring. But like, I think that's where you seen John Cena.
Torch getting passed.
Yes, I think Shawn said, "All right, big man,
Yeah.
you just got all the respect right here." You know, and John got so emotional in the ring after it's over with. I watched it yesterday, and you know he's crying, and you know he come out of the ring and tried to shake Shawn's hand, and Shawn wouldn't have no part of it.
Yeah.
He done a great job selling it right there, and then of course Cena goes back in the ring and finishes the celebration. But to me, that match right there put Cena
Coronation.
to where he's at right now.
And thank God for him. Again, it's another one.
You put him on your Rushmore, didn't you?
Yeah, he
Oh,
is.
he's
He
definitely-
passed Flair for me.
Yeah.
He passed Flair.
Yeah. I think a replacement one, I'm going to go WrestleMania 10. How about the ladder match between Shawn and Razor? Like,
Yeah.
it's a very...
It's a great one.
In a bad time in the WWE,
And
that
that-
was
And
fantastic.
that outside of Brett and Owen, which I'll get to later, that was the best match on the card because it is how a ladder match is supposed to be. Yes, they did spots off the ladder, but everything made sense.
That was exactly going to be my point. What I was going to say.
Yeah.
It was a wrestling match that you used the ladder mainly to go get a belt.
Yeah, and like,
it wasn't.
They did like a lot of stuff on the floor, and there was interference from Diesel a little bit, but they literally like all the big spots is because one was catching the other.
Right.
I mean, like
Stopping them.
And if you watch all the crowd reactions, they're like, "We've never seen anything."
Yeah,
like this
people were
before."
more in awe than they was just like screaming and hollering and all that.
I
You know.
remember getting it from the rental store. I spent more time watching that match, just going back and forth. My dad, who's not a big fan of high spots in wrestling, loves that match. Like it's, nowadays it's, we get to the top instead of getting the belts. Let me do a swanton onto 7 people out of the ring when I had the championship 6 inches from my face.
Yeah.
That's how they do things. But back then it was.
Well, how hard is it watching one now? We're all watching it together and saying, somebody goes up the top of the ladder in the first 2 minutes. You're like, well, this match should be over with in 2 minutes, but we know it's not going to be.
No, and then they stack 14 tables up halfway up the ramp, and somebody gives somebody a heave ho off the top of the ladder. Yeah.
Let's see. Is it back to me?
Yeah, it's back to you.
My number 2, Rock and Hogan, WrestleMania 18. I think it was in a time that Vince started getting pretty shitty with his storylines, with his booking. It should have been Hogan and Austin to me, but to see fans like me, I knew he was back with NWO when we weren't supposed to like him, but I couldn't help but cheering for him, and that's the loudest I think. I mean, just those 2 interactions face to face, and both of them look in opposite directions. and stuff. I mean, it was a icon versus icon match. I mean, it's something that will live on forever. Even though neither one of those two are my favorite wrestlers, I think it was a huge moment. Again, it wasn't even a main event, and it should have been. But it's bad booking. I thought Vince McMahon was at his shittiest at that point on all of his card making, on everything.
Those two, because of the crowd reaction, saved him on it.
Yeah,
because they
changed it.
Changed it in the ring.
I was going to say they changed mid.
Yeah,
I mean
that's not how that match was supposed to go.
It's like the Stone Cold Bret Hart was at the end. This was in the middle.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, this is we got to do something different here.
Just looking at each other, and they didn't really talk that much, but whatever they said.
And to Hogan's credit, he deferred to The Rock and let The Rock call that match.
Yeah.
Which was something you really don't ever hear of Hogan.
Yeah.
And you know, we talk about the bad of Hogan now that we're older and we see all that, but that was a point right there where Hogan done what he's supposed to. He done it for the business, not for himself. All right, my next one is WrestleMania 7. It's Hogan versus Slaughter.
Okay.
And this is where I said I was going with it.
Okay.
Guys, that was right at the start of the Gulf War. So,
which some could say is a bad reason to do that.
Well, I know.
Put that even worse.
Right, but you're right. But like for me as a wrestling fan, we had our American hero in Hulk Hogan. You know, the red, white, and blue, the whole nine. And like the way they built that up, Vince did. You know, you got Slaughter getting these special boots from Saddam. You know, and you're like, oh my God, like. And then they had the.
Well, it was real to us, damn it.
Yeah.
Still real to me, damn it.
Yeah, you know, and then you had, you know, the Iron Sheik was kind of helping. You had General Adnog that was there. He was his right-hand guy the whole time. And I watched that match yesterday because I went ahead and watched the Warrior Savage and went on into that one. But, like, that match, like, Slaughter had made his own rules. Like, Hogan couldn't do certain things, and he could do whatever he wanted to. You know, Hogan, he told Slaughter, you could tell, like, all right, we fix to take this on to the house. He's busted open. You know, they're in the ring just beating the hell out of him.
Covers him with the Iraqi flag.
Covers, you know, Hogan kicks out, rips the flag, you know, the whole nine. Then he goes on to win. But for me, a big part of that as a child was we watched Slaughter in AWA. He was the Marine. He was a USA soldier.
Yeah.
And now here he is, you know, with the title. He's with the Iraqis, you know, the whole, like, I just feel like that just, for me, and like what Hogan meant to me and where we were at as a country, it was terrible.
Well, listen, I know what you're saying, and yeah, looking back on it today, you think, I don't know about that.
Right.
You know? But me and Dusty, we were 10 at the time, and this shit was real. I remember having to sing. I remember having to put programs together and send videos to our local troops that were over there. I mean, it was scary times.
Yes, I told this story the other day. I went to elementary school with a guy named Michael Ballou. Haven't seen him since we probably graduated high school. But I remember being in class, and his brother was in the Army. Don't know his name, just call him Mr. Blue. Was deployed. And I remember Michael coming to school and the teachers taking $1 from us, and he changed that dollar, our American dollar, for an Iraqi dollar. I have a dollar at my mom and dad's house that's got Saddam's head on it. But I remember that, like, you know, like you said, though, we were sending videos and all this stuff to these soldiers.
And we knew all that was going on in real life. So then you watch it, and it's a feel good. As a 10-year-old, as a wrestling fan, it was a feel good moment. So I get why it's on your best.
You know, for me, that's where
him waving that flag around and blood all over him.
And he, you know, there's a video. He showed it last night when I was watching it, and I didn't remember this, and maybe the TV had cut off when I was watching it, but a fan threw a flag in the ring, and Hogan smiled at him, wiped the blood off his face, and then threw it back to him. You know, so it's just, to me, it just meant a lot to where we were at.
Well, I mean, listen, get on Apple Music and just play "I'm a Real American."
Yeah,
you just have to do that every once in a while. Just get fired up. You know? You got to relive your childhood a little bit.
They talk about Rocky. You know, when you start playing "Eye of the Tiger," no. You hit the "I'm a Real American," buddy. It's on.
So, have you gone through 3? Are we?
Yeah, because
I've only got one left.
I've got one left because me and him had talked about the Bret Hart Stone Cold.
You tied on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just have one left.
All right. I'll have one left after this as well. How about WrestleMania 30, Bryan Danielson? Like, that might, outside of Cody and Roman, that might be the best story that they have told in the last decade and a half. Like, he not only, the McMahons in storyline and in real life were doing everything they could to make sure Bryan Danielson was not in the main event of WrestleMania.
And the fans said no.
The fans said no. They finally.
But actually, the fans said yes,
exactly.
yes.
The fans said yes, and then remember that show started with Rock, Hogan and
Austin.
Stone Cold in the ring, and that's when Hogan thought he was in the Silverdome and not the Superdome.
And then Austin comes out and says, "Yeah, welcome everybody to the Silverdome."
And Rock too. Rock throws in him as well. The next match, it's Triple H and Danielson. It's a great match, and then you could literally fast forward through the rest of that show. No one cares about it. And then you go to the end, and it was okay. I think Triple H Danielson was better than Batista and Orton and Danielson, because I thought there was more between Orton and Batista than there was with Danielson. Right. And remember, because Triple H beat the hell out of him at the end after he lost to him. But then, like you could see it coming. I think it's like a power bomb that Batista does to Orton. Orton goes out. Next thing you know, camera angle's great. Here comes a knee from Danielson, puts him in the yes lock. 70, 80,000 people rise up. They see him tap. That's one of the loudest pops I've ever heard in wrestling. It's the best storyline.
You heard about 40,000 yes
at one time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he didn't celebrate in the ring. Remember, he goes out and he stands on top of the commentary table, out with the fans and does it. It's the best outside of Cody and Roman. It's the best storyline they've done in the last 15 years.
I agree. Yeah. All right, my number one is Austin and Michaels and Tyson. The match was just okay, but the build up to it with Austin winning the Royal Rumble, then Mike Tyson's in the audience watching it. He's up in the press box watching it. Then you build it up that Tyson's with DX. You got to remember where you are at the time. WCW's still kicking WWE's ass at it, and it set the tone of where after that, when Austin wins that belt at WrestleMania 14, WWE never looked back. Now you can also say, well, WCW couldn't get out of their own fucking way of a lot of it, but they tied their carriage to Steve Austin's back, and he carried them to the promised land. And then I've been shitting on Vince McMahon this whole show, but you got to give him credit. Triple H, Rock, Taker comes back as a badass, Kane. You get all these that you also roll that ball out there and let them go with it too, and then it just is what it is. I mean, it made me and Dusty's high school years.
Same here. Same here.
My last one's WrestleMania 3. It's my favorite match. It's Savage Steamboat. Really got to digging into this one. How
great was Giorgiano still in that?
He was awesome. That match was supposed to have been Savage versus George Animal Steel.
Right.
But George didn't want to put the time in to script it like Savage or like Steamboat and Savage are going to do. It took 5 months because Savage was such a perfectionist. But they'd been working on that match for 5 months when it happened. 22 near falls in that match. And of course, Steamboat goes on to win. Never a rematch, and we talked about it. Steamboat left because his son was born. Savage went on to form the Mega Powers, and then they exploded.
Steamboat goes on to WCW.
And Steamboat went on to WCW and had his run. But to me, just the match. We'll never see two guys. I mean, I know we've talked about Shawn and Bret and all those guys are great, but in WrestleMania 3 in the early 80s, that was...
Well, that's what also shows you how great WrestleMania 3 was. That was the best match of the night, and it wasn't even the main event.
Right.
How big WrestleMania 3 was.
It was huge.
So,
and the rest is...
And it's honestly when I absolutely fell in love with Miss Elizabeth as well, and has still to this day is in love with her. So
Right.
It's better than Sunny, right?
Ah, Sonny, good God.
Well, I've got,
She used to make that thing hit me in the bottom of the chin. Now it just stares at the floor if I think about her.
well, I've got 2 more left. Back to WrestleMania 10. Bret Owen, one of the greatest matches of all time. And that's how that show started. And remember, it was Bret Owen, and then the winner of Lex. Bret was going to face the winner of Lex and Yokozuna, no matter if he beat Owen. But Owen, that match was incredible. Then then the match with Yoko was okay, but I just love the ending when everyone comes out, and it did 2 things. Finally got the title back on Bret where it needed to be after the debacle from the previous WrestleMania, and it killed whatever dumb thing they were trying to do with Lex Luger. Mm-hmm. No disrespect to Lex Luger. So obviously turned his life around, and when he got better once he got back in the WCW. This whole WWF run was awful.
It was terrible.
It was terrible. The whole SummerSlam thing,
the whole crap, him posing in front of the mirror and all this.
Yeah,
it was so bad, and Bret winning was great. Okay, and then my number 1, if I'm going to go back and watch one WrestleMania match, if I'm going to find it and I'm going to seek it out, and which I have done several times. Got to go with TLC from WrestleMania 17. I mean, it's going back to another ladder match.
That's Dudley's, that's Hardy Boys, and Edge and Christian.
And it was the ending of a 4-part match series. It started with Edge, Christian, and the Hardys at No Mercy 99. I think it was like $100,000 was on the line. It wasn't the titles. It was $100,000. The match was so good, both sides were leaving, and the crowds gave him a standing ovation on the way out. That never happened, especially for a mid-card match. Then they did, obviously, Mania 16, 17, did SummerSlam 2000, all 3 of them together. 16 and 17, the matches are very similar, but 17, again, they went through a lot of furniture. There's a lot of bodies crashing, but the moment, it wasn't one of those belts underneath, the ladders underneath the belts and you do a swanton. No, when they were going for the belts, it was real. Yeah, they did a lot of, remember when it was one of the Hardys and Bubba Ray. Remember, they were on the ladder underneath the belts, and I think it was Edge that shoved them both off. And then it was Jeff Hardy hanging from the belts, and one of the most iconic things you see is Edge spearing him.
That's when the spear came, yeah.
Yep.
Because that was back then before all the phones, the cameras on the phones. You remember Edge is going for the spear and the light bulbs going off. I miss that from the opening kickoff in the Super Bowl and the light bulbs go off.
Right.
Every bump, every swanton, everything they did made absolute sense, and it was a great capping to that rivalry. And if I go back and watch a WrestleMania match, if you put a gun to my head, I'm going to say TLC from WrestleMania 17.
Well, it's so entertaining. Go ahead.
And just a little filler. I had the privilege a few years ago. I went to Zany's in Nashville with a buddy of mine, and we done Jim Ross done a Q&A with Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
Both of them's there. It was like a 3-hour show, and Jim Ross is the brains behind that match.
Yeah.
And when the first one was over, and they get to the back, of course, Jim Ross is out calling the match. When he gets to the back, because those guys back then, I don't know how it is now, but Jim Ross was talking about it. He was the one handing out the paychecks.
Yeah.
He was in charge of that, I guess, wrestling personnel or whatever.
Yeah.
But he went to Vince before he went in the locker room to those guys and said, "Hey, we got to give them more money." And Vince, I think the number was $2,000 or $3,000 a piece. Vince had they had the cash. He said it was cash.
Yeah.
And he put it in 6 envelopes. And he went in the locker room and he handed those guys, that was a bonus.
Yeah.
Before he ever, so that just shows those guys back then really wasn't making a lot of money.
Right.
To do what they do. But props to Jim Ross for seeing that.
Yeah.
And
And it's, a lot of people would equate it to ECW. That's better than anything you ever saw.
Anything.
on
ECW was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, listen, I think we all had good and bad. We had a lot. We didn't have as many that overlined each other. I thought we had a lot of good things to discuss. But let's get to some of our listeners. Our buddy Justin Tipper says, Honky Tonk Man defeating Jake the Snake Roberts sucked in WrestleMania 3. Jake had Alice Cooper in his corner, for God's sakes. But the Hogan and Andre match is his favorite of all time. Our good buddy Brian Newton. Jesus, Brian, just give us the Cliff Notes. He sent us, look at that, 8 paragraphs.
It took me 5 minutes to read the comment.
He said one of his favorite things watching The Rock sing to Vicky Guerrero. I don't know if that was a WrestleMania moment. Brian, you squat to shorten your scoop, but we appreciate the heck out of you. My wife, I thought she had a good question. We'll answer this one by one. AJ, you can go first, and then Dusty will go, then I'll go. But what WrestleMania main events would you rebook if you could, and why? I know my answer, so I'll go first. It would clearly be Austin Rock 17, and I would do it the exact same way. I would have the match the exact same way, and McMahon would keep his ass in the back.
Yeah.
You can turn him heel, but he doesn't have to be with McMahon, you know. Because clearly we saw the fans were not going to let Austin be the bad guy.
No.
He can try, but it's not. And that's probably the one I would if I could go back and do it over, that's one that I would probably do.
I would, the one where Seth cashes in, I think Seth should cash in at the get-go and make it a triple threat the whole way. Because I think it gets the crowd back into it. And I think it's a better overall match.
The crowd reaction and the whole match is better.
Oh, yeah, and the anticipation is so much better. Like, you get a much better match if Seth is there the entire time than it is coming in the last 5 minutes.
Gotcha.
Mine would definitely be Lesnar Taker when he beat him.
I got you.
I would flop that.
Yeah.
And
keep the streak going.
There's no way I'm letting Lesnar in the streak.
Well,
that would be mine.
That's good. Speaking of, before we say so long, did you guys see I'm wanting to watch after I watched the Masters. I don't know if you guys know, a new Dark Side of the Ring about Big Van Vader is out, so that should be great.
Okay.
That's the newest
I watched
episode.
The one about Ludwig Borga. It's a different fella.
Yeah, well, this one looks like a really good one. I watched about the first 5 minutes of it, and Leon had a lot of demons.
He did.
Leon was hard to work with, but
he was so
stiff. Yeah. So it should be a good episode. So any wrestling fans, if you like Dark Side of the Ring, there's a good episode there. All right, we don't know what our next show is going to be. We're going to get through WrestleMania next weekend, and maybe talk to our buddy Bryce if he wants to join us and do a dream team. Maybe.
We've talked about it, yeah.
We may get back into NBA. We see. We hadn't really talked any NFL football. We might try one of those.
Hey, listen.
I'm going to have to take a damn break from college football, though.
I'm not talking college football. I tell you what I'd like to do, too. We need to sit down and talk about it. I would like to talk about golf. Okay. Let's talk about the Tiger Slam.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, that's going to be our next episode. We're going to talk about Early's 2000 golf and Tiger Woods and the Tiger Slam. All right, let's get into that.
I think it'll be a good show.
All right, so for our producer extraordinaire, Mr. AJ Good, this is Clint Brazier.
I'm Dusty Kaiser.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Cuttin' Up.